The moment the graduation cap touched my fingers, he wrapped his hands around my throat in the backstage room, but the lapel mic was already recording. I didn't run. I walked onto that stage, looked straight at 500 people, pressed record on my phone, and started calling the devil by his real name. The entire auditorium rose to their feet when they heard the last 3 digits of the restraining order. When the police rushed in, I stopped mid-sentence at the word, when. My name is Kayla Whitman, and graduation day started with a bruise. The bathroom mirror at Boulder State University's athletic center caught every shade of purple blooming across my throat. Foundation wouldn't cover all of it. I'd learned that lesson sophomore year, but the high collar of my graduation gown would do most of the work. My valedictorian card sat in the inner pocket, its edges sharp against my ribs when I breathed. 6:45 a.m. The Flatiron Pavilion wouldn't open for another hour, but I needed this moment alone with the mirror, with the truth written on my skin. Outside, maintenance crews were already setting up 500 folding chairs on the lawn, their metal legs clicking against each other like chattering teeth. The May air smelled of fresh-cut grass and possibility for everyone else. I touched the mini recorder tucked into my gown's hem, smaller than a lipstick tube. Zoe from Debate Club had synced it to the pavilion's sound system during yesterday's rehearsal, pretending to test her phone's Bluetooth connection. Nobody questioned the debate team president's tech needs. Nobody knew she'd spent 3 months helping me document everything. 3 little words saved me once, I whispered to my reflection, remembering the restraining order filed 2 months ago. TRO, temporary restraining order. Such clinical language for something that barely kept Dale Mercer at the legal distance of 100 yards. He'd learned to hover at 101. The bathroom door creaked. Coach Ramirez walked in, her boxing gym bag slung over one shoulder. She took one look at my neck and set her jaw the way she did before demonstrations. "Today?" she asked. "Today?" I pulled out the valedictorian card. "No more silence." She nodded, understanding everything I couldn't say. For 3 years, she'd taught me more than just boxing basics at the community gym. She'd taught me that sometimes the best defense is making sure everyone's watching when the punch finally comes. My phone buzzed. "Mom, Dale's wearing his good suit. He's so proud of you, honey." I almost laughed. The man who'd torn up my first college acceptance letter for giving me airs was playing proud stepfather. The man who made me account for every penny from my job at Sugarfinch Bakery, who kept a notebook of my debts for electricity and water, who installed locks that only opened from the outside he'd waltz into my graduation like Father of the Year. Another text from Zoe. "Security briefed, they know the code phrase. Principal Collins signed off personally. The roof keeps leaking." 4 words that would bring campus security running. I'd practiced saying them without my voice shaking, the way Dale had taught me to say, "Yes, sir," without crying. 7:30 a.m. Time to walk across campus. Other graduates were starting to arrive, their families spilling out of minivans with balloons and flower bouquets. Normal families. Families where daughters could close their bedroom doors, where achievement meant celebration instead of punishment, where fathers reel or step didn't whisper threats that sounded like love. I stopped at the memorial bench dedicated to my dad. Tom Whitman, paramedic, 1975-2018. The plaque was weathered now, 5 years of Colorado winters having softened its edges. He'd taught me to never turn my back on a wave, to face whatever was coming head on. Today, I wouldn't turn my back. The recorder's weight pulled at my hem as I walked. Inside its memory, 6 months of evidence, Dale's voice slurring through threats, the sound of my bedroom door being removed from its hinges, Mom's silence when I begged her to see what was happening. The Flatiron Pavilion loomed ahead, its red sandstone walls catching the morning sun. Somewhere in that building, Dale was already prowling the halls with Mom's guest pass, ready to remind me who really controlled this family. I touched the bruise one last time through my collar. Today, 500 people would become witnesses. Today, the man who specialized in invisible violence would finally be seen. "No more silence," I said again, louder this time. The words tasted like liberation. Before Dale Mercer came to fix our roof, mornings in Maple Ridge, Oregon, tasted like French roast and sounded like Dad's country radio bleeding through thin walls. Tom Whitman would be up at 5:30, packing his paramedic bag while Mom scrambled eggs and I fought with geometry homework at the kitchen table. The house wasn't much a two-bedroom ranch with original 70s wood paneling, but it held us perfectly. Then came the fog on Highway 26. November 3rd, 2018. A logging truck jackknifed. Dad's ambulance couldn't stop in time, and suddenly our three-person ecosystem collapsed into two. The insurance money barely covered the funeral. Mom's part-time library salary couldn't stretch to meet the mortgage. She stopped eating breakfast, stopped playing her Thursday night bunco, stopped being anything more than a ghost haunting our hallways. By February, the roof had started leaking. Mrs. Henderson from next door recommended someone reliable, her nephew's friend who'd just moved to town. Dale's good people, she promised. Does honest work? Fair prices? Dale Mercer showed up on a Tuesday afternoon while I was at school. When I got home, he was sitting at our kitchen table, Mom laughing at something he'd said the first time I'd heard that sound in 4 months. He was handsome in that rough way that appeals to lonely women, weathered hands, salt and pepper beard, eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He'd fixed the leak for half what the other contractors quoted. "Your mom tells me you're quite the writer," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, held a beat too long. "Maybe you can help me with my business proposal sometime." Within a month, he was fixing the bathroom faucet, then the garage door, then Mom's broken heart, apparently. She bloomed under his attention like a drought-stricken plant finally getting water. He brought groceries without being asked, showed up with flowers every Friday, took us to dinner at the fancy steakhouse downtown, the one Dad had always promised we'd try someday. I wanted to be happy for her. I tried to ignore the way Dale's compliments always had sharp edges. "You're smart for a 17-year-old. That dress makes you look less skinny. Your mom deserves better than this dump." The proposal came 6 months after Dad died. Dale presented the ring over pot roast, his specialty. Mom cried yes before he finished asking. They married at the courthouse 2 weeks later. Dale said big weddings were for show-offs. Mom wore the same dress she'd worn to Dad's funeral, dyed purple. The changes started small. Dale needed a home office, so my writing desk moved to my bedroom. The living room photos of Dad migrated to the hallway, then the garage, then disappeared entirely. "Dwelling on the past isn't healthy," Dale explained, hanging his hunting trophies where our family portraits had been. A 10-point buck stared down at us during dinner, glass eyes reflecting our silence. The engagement gift he gave me should have been the warning, a silver chain with a tiny padlock charm. "So you'll always remember," he said, fastening it around my neck himself, "that good girls who know their place live peaceful lives." His breath smelled like wintergreen tobacco and something darker. Mom beamed from the doorway, mistaking possession for affection. Our first family dinner as the Mercers. Dale laid out the new rules. No closed doors. "We're not hiding from each other in this family. Everyone contributes. Your part-time job money goes to the household fund. Respect was non-negotiable. When I speak, you listen." Mom nodded along, relief washing over her face. Someone else was in charge now. Someone else would make the decisions, pay the bills, be the adult. She could finally stop drowning in grief and responsibility. She didn't see that Dale wasn't throwing her a life preserver, he was pulling her under with him. I started documenting things that winter. Small rebellions hidden in my school notebook. The date he threw out my college brochures, December 15th. The day he opened my bank account statement without asking, January 3rd. The first time he grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave marks, January 27th. Right after I'd won the district essay competition. "Writing fancy words won't pay bills," he'd said, tearing my certificate in half. "But you'll learn that soon enough." Mom stood in the kitchen doorway, dish towel in her hands, watching him destroy what I'd earned. She turned away, busying herself with dishes that were already clean. That's when I knew I was alone in this house with him. That night, I touched the padlock charm at my throat and made a promise to my father's memory. Dale Mercer thought he was fixing our broken family. He didn't know he was teaching me to become something unbreakable. The invisible rules suffocated our house like carbon monoxide, odorless, colorless, deadly if you breathed them too long. Rule 1. Doors stayed open. Privacy is for people with secrets, Dale would say, removing my bedroom door from its hinges when I'd forgotten and closed it one night to study. The empty frame gaped like a wound for 3 weeks until I'd earned the door back by cataloging his tools in the garage, alphabetically, twice. Rule 2. Money was communal, but only in one direction. Every Friday at 6 p.m., I'd hand over my Sugar Finch Bakery paycheck $420 for 2 weeks of 4 at ma'am shifts before school. Dale would count it at the kitchen table, recording each bill in his ledger. Electricity $40, your hot showers $20, food you waste $35. By his math, I always owed more than I earned. Mom learned not to look up from her crossword puzzles during these accounting sessions. Rule 3. Excellence was punishable. When Boulder State's acceptance letter arrived early admission with partial scholarship, Dale fed it to the garbage disposal. State school's good enough for anyone, he said, running the motor until the paper turned to pulp. You're not better than us. When I won the regional essay contest about healthcare heroes, he made me watch him burn the check for $500. What would people think? You taking charity? We're not poor. The financial control tightened like a noose. He installed a lock on the refrigerator. Snacking is wasteful. Internet shut off at 9 p.m. Night owls are lazy. My phone became a family phone. Its password changed weekly to whatever Dale decided. I learned to memorize friends' numbers, writing them in pencil on my thigh where they'd wash off in the shower. Mom faded like a photograph left in sunlight. She'd been quiet after Dad died, but under Dale's rules, she became translucent. Her opinions evaporated mid-sentence. Her needs shrank until she barely took up space at her own dinner table. When I tried talking to her alone, those rare moments when Dale was on a job, she'd look through me like I was speaking a foreign language. He loves us, she'd whisper, clutching her coffee mug with both hands. He takes care of us. The gaslighting came wrapped in concern. You seem stressed, Kayla. Maybe you're taking on too much with school. This after he'd thrown my laptop against the wall for typing too loud while he watched TV. Your mother worries you're becoming antisocial. This when he'd forbidden me from joining study groups that met past 6 p.m. I'm only thinking of your future. This while tearing up my SAT registration because standardized tests are scams. I found oxygen in unexpected places. The debate club met during lunch. Dale couldn't control school hours. Ms. Martinez, the advisor, noticed my hunger for argument, for using words as weapons and shields. She slipped me books on rhetoric, on power dynamics, on finding your voice when someone's stolen it. The most dangerous person in any room, she told me once, is the one who finally decides to speak. Boxing came later. Junior year. The school had started a women's self-defense program. Free. Tuesdays and Thursdays right after school. Dale couldn't object to school-sanctioned activities without looking unreasonable to outsiders his deepest fear. Coach Ramirez taught us more than punches. She taught us about space, boundaries, the power of planted feet and clear eyes. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget, she said, adjusting my stance. Trust your instincts. They're usually right. My instincts screamed constantly now. When Dale stood too close while helping with homework, his hand heavy on my shoulder. When he'd enter my room at 2 to check the window was locked, standing in the doorframe just long enough to make my skin crawl. When he'd describe in detail what happened to ungrateful girls in the real world, his eyes never leaving my face. I started building my escape in fragments. A second bank account under my grandmother's maiden name. A go bag hidden in the debate club storage room. Photos of bruises saved to a cloud account Dale didn't know existed. voice recordings captured on an old iPod I'd lost freshman year, the night I turned 18. Dale celebrated by showing me the tuition bill he wouldn't be paying. "Adults handle their own problems," he said, raising his beer in mock salute. "Welcome to the real world." But I'd already been living in the real world, his version of it, for 3 years. I'd learned its rules, mapped its borders, found its weak points. Dale thought he was breaking me down, teaching me my place. Instead, he was forging me into something harder than his fists, sharper than his words. The acceptance letter to Boulder State, the second one, sent to Zoe's address, promised work study, loans, a dormitory far from Maple Ridge, 4 more months of invisible rules, of open doors and empty bank accounts, 4 more months of Mom's vacant stares and Dale's calculating presence. I could survive 4 more months. I'd been training for this my whole life. Apparently, Dale had made sure of that. The email arrived at 11:43 p.m. on a Thursday, while Dale was passed out in his recliner and Mom was doing her 3rd load of unnecessary laundry. "Congratulations, Kayla Whitman. You have been selected as Boulder State University's valedictorian for the class of 2025. My heart hammered as I screenshot the message before deleting it. 4 years of hidden study sessions, of typing papers on library computers, of maintaining a perfect GPA while navigating Dale's landmines, it had led to this moment, this platform, this opportunity. The next morning, Dale found out anyway. Principal Collins had called the house to personally congratulate the family. I watched Dale's knuckles whiten around his coffee mug as Collins explained about the ceremony, the speech, the 500 guests who'd hear my words. "She won't be doing it," Dale said flatly. "I'm sorry," Collins's voice crackled through speakerphone. "Family emergency. She's declining the honor." I found my voice. "No, I'm not." The mug shattered against the wall an inch from my head. Coffee dripped down Mom's paisley wallpaper as Collins asked if everything was all right. "Everything's perfect," I said clearly. "I'll see you Monday to discuss the speech. Thank you for calling." Dale waited until I hung up. "You think you're clever standing up there, telling everyone how special you are? Nobody wants to hear some ungrateful brat spread her daddy issues across a stage." But I'd already started recording on the iPod in my pocket. "Is that a threat?" "Dale." He laughed, the sound like grinding gears. "It's a promise, princess. You get on that stage. You'll regret it." That night, Zoe helped me file the temporary restraining order. The campus legal aid clinic had been documenting everything for months, the stalking incidents outside my dorm, the threatening emails from anonymous accounts that traced back to Dale's IP address, the police reports from 3 wellness checks he'd called claiming I was mentally unstable and dangerous to myself. "The TRO goes into effect immediately," the advocate explained. "He can't come within 100 yards of you, your dorm, or university property." Dale found ways around it, of course. 101 yards became his new favorite distance. He'd stand across from the library, visible through the windows, park his truck just outside the boundary line at the coffee shop. Mom started showing up alone to my campus events, always with the same message: "He misses you. He's sorry. Come home." I threw myself into preparation. The valedictorian speech became my weapon, each word sharpened to a point. Zoe connected me with the AV club. They could live stream the ceremony, record everything, make sure nothing disappeared. The debate team rallied, creating contingency plans like we were preparing for nationals. "If he shows up," Zoe started. "When," I corrected. "When he shows up." She nodded. "When he shows up, we're ready. Marcus will be on the main camera. Jen's got backup audio. I'll have campus security on speed dial." Coach Ramirez added her own preparation. "Violence is always their last move," she said, working with me on escape routes, defensive positions. "When words stop working, they use their hands. Be ready." I built my proof folder methodically. 3 years of evidence organized chronologically. Financial abuse documented in spreadsheets. Medical records from the campus health center noting suspicious bruising patterns. Screenshots of Dale's messages to my professors claiming I was troubled and prone to lying. The recording of him explicitly threatening to end me if I embarrassed the family. 2 nights before graduation, I met with Principal Collins and head of campus security, Captain Torres. "This is serious," Torres said, reviewing my file. "Why haven't you pressed charges? Who'd believe me he's careful, never leaves marks where others can see, never threatens when witnesses are around. It's my word against his, and he's the respected contractor who saved a widow and raised her difficult daughter." Collins leaned forward. "It's not just your word anymore. It's your evidence, your witnesses, this entire university standing behind you. We established the protocol." If I said, "the roof keeps leaking," a phrase specific enough to avoid accidents, mundane enough to slip into speech naturally, security would move immediately. They'd have officers positioned at every entrance, in the wings, throughout the audience. "You don't have to do this," Torres said gently. "We could ban him from the ceremony entirely." No. I thought of every girl sitting in an open door frame, counting someone else's money, shrinking into herself. He needs to be there. Everyone needs to see him there. When I tell the truth, he can't claim he was misunderstood or taken out of context. He'll be right there, in his good suit, playing proud father while I pull back the curtain. The lavalier microphone arrived the morning of graduation, smaller than my thumb. The AV team showed me how to snake it through my gown, how to activate it without looking. It would capture everything within 10 feet, transmitting directly to the main board and backup recorders. "It's voice-activated," Marcus explained. "The second someone speaks near you, it's recording and streaming." I held the tiny device, this electronic witness that couldn't be intimidated or gaslit. Perfect. Mom texted that afternoon. "Dale bought a new camera for tonight. He wants to remember everything." I almost laughed. He would definitely remember everything. 500 people would make sure of that. The backstage area of Flatiron Pavilion smelled like fresh paint and nervous sweat. 7:20 p.m. 10 minutes before the ceremony. Other honor students clustered in groups, adjusting their caps, practicing handshakes. I stood alone by the emergency exit, valedictorian medal heavy around my neck, speech cards pressed against my ribs. The door opened, not the main entrance where security was posted, but the service door that connected to the loading dock. Dale stepped through like he owned the place. Mom's guest pass clipped to his good suit, the gray one he wore to court appearances and funerals. "There's my graduate," he said, loud enough for others to hear, playing the proud father for the small audience of students who glanced our way, but his eyes were ice and his hands were already flexing. I touched the microphone at my collar, confirming the tiny red light was on. "You're violating the restraining order." "Prove it." He stepped closer. "Your mother invited me. Family event. Judge would understand a father wanting to see his daughter's big moment." "You're not my father." The slap came fast, but I'd been expecting it. My head snapped left, cap sliding askew. A few students gasped. Dale immediately shifted to concerned mode, reaching out as if to steady me. "Kayla, honey, are you feeling faint? The pressure must be getting to you. Don't touch me." I stepped back, aware of every phone now pointed our way, every witness in the room. He followed, backing me against the wall. "You're going to get up there and give a nice speech about gratitude and family values. Thank your mother and me for our support. Then you're coming home where we can discuss your attitude problem properly." "No." His hand wrapped around my throat, exactly where the bruises from this morning had started to yellow. Not squeezing yet, just resting there like a promise. "What did you say?" I said no. My voice stayed steady even as his fingers tightened. "I'm done being afraid of you." The door opened again. Mom stood there in her floral dress, the one she thought made her look younger. She saw Dale's hand on my throat, saw my face turning red, saw the other students recording on their phones. And she stood there, frozen, empty, like she'd stood in 1,000 doorways before. "Evelyn," Dale said calmly, not loosening his grip. Kayla's having a panic attack. She's confused. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Mom, I managed, despite his fingers. Please. She looked at me, through me, past me. Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking down the hallway like a countdown. Dale squeezed harder. After your speech, you're coming home. You'll apologize to your mother for causing drama. You'll decline any college honors that take you away from family, and you'll learn to be grateful for everything I've done for you. Black spots danced in my vision. 3 years of boxing training kicked in. I didn't need to win, just needed to get free. Step off the center line, palm heel strike to the chin, use his grip against him. Basic moves Coach Ramirez had drilled until they became instinct. Dale stumbled back, more surprised than hurt. Blood trickled from where he'd bitten his tongue. You little 5 minutes to curtain. The stage manager called out, bustling through with her clipboard. She stopped, taking in the scene Dale's bloody mouth, my askew cap, the circle of students with their phones out. Is there a problem here? No problem, I said, straightening my cap, smoothing my gown. The microphone had caught everything, transmitted everything. Mr. Mercer was just leaving. Dale wiped his mouth, his good suit sleeve coming away red. This isn't over. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. He stormed out through the same service door, probably planning to circle around to the main entrance, take his seat next to Mom, pretend none of this happened. But Zoe had already texted security. They'd be watching for him now. The stage manager touched my shoulder gently. Are you okay to go on? I thought of the 500 people waiting in their seats, the cameras ready to roll, the speech in my pocket that would strip away 3 years of carefully maintained facades. The microphone at my collar still recording, still transmitting to the main board where Marcus was backing up everything to multiple drives. I'm perfect, I told her, and meant it. She led me to the wings. Through the curtain gap, I could see the audience filling the auditorium, faculty in their academic regalia, parents with bouquets and balloons, Mom in the 3rd row, staring at her hands, and Dale, somehow past security, settling into the seat beside her like nothing had happened. Like his lip wasn't swelling, like he hadn't just tried to strangle me into submission. Principal Collins approached from the other wing. Kayla, security told me, the roof keeps leaking, I said clearly. His expression shifted immediately. He nodded once and spoke into his radio. I watched security guards materialize at every exit, casual but alert. Captain Torres positioned himself at the base of the stage stairs. The lights dimmed. The ceremony music began. 200 graduates filed onto the stage in neat rows. I stood at the podium, looking out at 500 faces about to witness something they'd never forget. Dale sat there in his good suit, playing proud father one last time. He had no idea the show was about to change. I touched the microphone at my collar one more time, then leaned into the podium mic. Good evening. My name is Kayla Whitman, and I need to tell you the truth about my family. My father taught me to never turn my back on a wave, I began, my voice carrying clear through the pavilion's sound system. Tom Whitman was a paramedic who died saving others in a highway pileup. He believed in facing danger head-on, in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Tonight, I'm following his lesson. A ripple of attention passed through the audience. This wasn't the usual gratitude and dreams valedictorian speech. We all know what a healthy family looks like from the outside. Sunday barbecues, Christmas photos, a stepfather who shows up to school events in his good suit. I found Dale's eyes in the 3rd row. But some families are theaters, and we're all just actors playing our parts. I clicked the remote Marcus had hidden at the podium. The screen behind me illuminated with a photo not of faces, but of a ledger page, Dale's handwriting, calculating my debts down to the penny. This is what financial abuse looks like. Every dollar I earned at Sugarfinch Bakery, recorded and taken. $40 for electricity I used studying, $20 for hot water, $35 for food I wasted by existing. My voice stayed clinical, factual. Minimum wage in Colorado is $15 an hour. I worked 20 hours a week for 3 years. That's $46,800. I never saw a cent. Murmurs rose from the audience. Parents exchanged glances. Dale started to stand, but Mom grabbed his arm. Good, let her keep him there for once. Next slide, a door frame without a door. Privacy is for people with secrets, he said. So my bedroom door came off. My diary disappeared. My phone became family property. When you control someone's space, you control their reality. I touched my collar, confirming the microphone was still transmitting. But the real artistry came in the gaslighting. When I won the regional essay contest, he burned the check for my own good, to keep me humble. When Boulder State accepted me early admission, he destroyed the letter state school was enough for anyone. When I earned this valedictorian spot, he said, "Stop this!" Dale's voice boomed from the audience. Perfect timing. He said nobody wants to hear an ungrateful brat spread her daddy issues across a stage. I clicked to the next slide, a police report. This is from March 15th, when he called campus police claiming I was mentally unstable. March 22nd, he did it again. April 3rd, another welfare check. When control fails, try humiliation. Dale was standing now, Mom's grip forgotten. "You're sick, Kayla. You need help." "I have help." I gestured to the audience. 500 witnesses. The audio started playing from the speaker's Dale's voice from 20 minutes ago. Crystal clear. "After your speech, you're coming home. You'll apologize to your mother for causing drama. You'll decline any college honors that take you away from family." Then the sound of choking, gasping me, struggling against his grip. "That happened backstage," I said. 10 minutes ago. He grabbed my throat where the bruises from this morning had barely faded. I pulled down my collar slightly, revealing the fresh red marks over top yellow-green ones. Gasps echoed through the pavilion. "This is called Temporary Restraining Order, number 247139-5-B. I continued, clicking to the legal document. "It legally requires Dale Mercer, yes. That's his full name, to stay 100 yards away from me. He's currently in violation." Captain Torres moved toward the aisle, hand on his radio. Other security guards shifted into position. But I wasn't done. Some of you are thinking, why didn't she say something sooner? Why didn't her mother protect her? I found Mom's eyes, hollow in her pale face. Because abuse is a slow poison. It starts with love bombing, then isolation, then financial control, then physical intimidation. By the time you realize you're drowning, you've forgotten what breathing felt like. I clicked to the final slide, a photo of my father in his paramedic uniform. Tom Whitman died because he drove toward danger, not away from it. He taught me that darkness hates light, that the truth, spoken clearly, is the strongest weapon we have. Dale was pushing past seated guests now, trying to reach the aisle. "She's lying, Evelyn. Tell them she's lying." Mom stood up slowly, like a woman underwater. The entire auditorium turned to watch her. She looked at Dale, at me, at the bruises on the screen, at the police reports, at the truth laid out in undeniable black and white. "The roof," she said quietly, then louder, her voice cracking through years of silence. "The roof keeps leaking." The code phrase, our old house's actual leak that Dale had fixed, turned into a cry for help. Security moved immediately. 4 officers converged on Dale's position as he tried to rush the stage. The audience rose to their feet not in applause, but as witnesses, as protection, as a human wall between him and me. "You ungrateful," Dale's curses cut off as Captain Torres reached him. "Mr. Mercer, you're under arrest for violating a restraining order and assault." The words echoed through the microphone system Marcus had patched Torres's radio to the speakers. I kept talking over the chaos. "This is what courage looks like. Not staying silent to keep peace. Not protecting abusers to avoid shame. It looks like 500 people standing up to say we see you, we believe you, and you're not alone." The handcuffs clicked onto Dale's wrists with a metallic finality that rang through the pavilion. As they led him past the stage, he lunged one last time, screaming something, but his words were drowned out by something I'd never expected. Applause. Thunder rolling, ground-shaking applause as 500 people stood and clapped not for a graduation speech, but for truth finally told. The aisle erupted into controlled chaos. Dale writhed against Torres's grip, trying to break free as two more officers flanked him. His good suit jacket tore at the shoulder as he lunged toward the stage one more time. "That's my daughter," he roared. "You can't—" "She's not your daughter." Coach Ramirez had materialized from the middle section, stepping directly into his path. Behind her, a line of women mothers, graduates. Faculty formed a human barrier. "And you're done hurting her." The cameras never stopped rolling. Marcus had 3 angles streaming live to the university's social media. Local news, alerted by Zoe an hour ago, had arrived just in time to capture Dale Mercer, respected contractor, loving stepfather being dragged out in handcuffs while screaming profanities. I stayed at the podium, gripping its edges to keep my hands from shaking. This was the part that mattered most, not letting him make this about his arrest, but keeping it about the truth. "I need to finish," I said into the microphone. The audience, still standing, fell silent. "Because this isn't just my story." I looked at the faces turned toward me, some crying, some angry, some recognizing themselves in my words. 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence. 1 in 7 men. Those aren't statistics, they're your classmates, your neighbors, your family members who smile at Sunday dinners while calculating escape routes. So, Mom hadn't moved from her spot, standing frozen between rows while people carefully navigated around her. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, like Dale's absence had deflated something vital. "The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is when you try to leave," I continued. "That's when they escalate. That's when—" Dale's voice cut through from outside, where officers were trying to get him into the police car. "I know where you live. You think a piece of paper will stop me. You're dead. Kayla dead. Perfect." Every threat captured on official body cameras, witnessed by hundreds, streamed live to thousands. He was building my case for me. Principal Collins approached the podium, touching my shoulder gently. "Ms. Whitman, would you like to take a break?" "No." I pulled the final document from my pocket. "I need to read this." It was the email I'd drafted but never sent, dated 2 years ago. "Dear Mom, Dale hit me today. Not where it shows, but you saw him do it. You were standing in the kitchen doorway with dish soap still on your hands. I waited for you to say something, to do something. You turned away and started humming that song Dad used to sing. I realized then that you'd chosen your comfort over my safety. I forgive you, but I'll never trust you again." A sob echoed from where Mom stood. Several people near her stepped closer, offering tissues, support, witness to her complicity and her pain. "Abuse thrives in silence and shame," I said. "It counts on victims being too embarrassed to speak up, too afraid of judgment, too worried about making scenes." I gestured to the chaos around us. "This is a scene, and it's exactly what healing looks like: messy, public, and absolutely necessary." My phone buzzed with a text from Torres outside. "He's threatening you on record. Federal charges possible. Stay where you are." 4 minutes ago, I announced, Dale Mercer threatened my life in front of law enforcement while violating a restraining order in front of 500 witnesses. That's a Class 6 felony in Colorado, carrying a minimum sentence of 1 year. Law school preparation finally paying off. But more importantly, he showed you exactly who he is when he doesn't get to control the narrative. The side door burst open. 3 more officers entered. These in different uniforms, state police, not campus security. The woman in charge walked directly to the stage. "Ms. Whitman, I'm Detective Sarah Chen. We've been investigating Mr. Mercer for similar incidents in Oregon and Wyoming. Your evidence tonight, combined with what we've gathered, will ensure he doesn't hurt anyone else." The audience erupted again. This time in recognition Dale wasn't just my monster. He was a serial abuser who'd been operating across state lines, leaving a trail of broken families who'd been too scared or isolated to speak up. I found Zoe in the crowd, her phone still recording. She nodded once everything was backed up, uploaded, safe. Dale couldn't intimidate evidence stored in the cloud. "I want to thank the people who stood up," I said, my voice finally starting to crack. Coach Ramirez, who taught me I had the right to defend myself. Zoe Park, who believed me before I had proof. Principal Collins and Captain Torres, who took a teenage girl's word over a grown man's reputation. And the 500 of you who became witnesses instead of bystanders. I pulled off the valedictorian medal and set it on the podium. This achievement means nothing if I can't use this platform to say you're not alone. It's not your fault, and your truth, spoken aloud, is more powerful than their fists will ever be. The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. People weren't just clapping, they were crying, hugging, pulling out phones to call someone they'd been worried about. 2 women approached Mom, gently guiding her to a chair, surrounding her with the community she'd isolated herself from. Detective Chin climbed the stage steps. "We'll need your full statement, but it can wait until tomorrow. Tonight, you're safe." "I know," I said, and for the first time in 3 years, I meant it. As campus security escorted me backstage, I saw the last thing Dale Mercer would ever see of my graduation, 500 people standing between him and me, their bodies forming a wall he'd never break through again. The handcuffs caught the stage lights as they closed around Dale's wrists. The metallic click amplified through the sound system Marcus had patched to the police radios. Every detail was being captured, archived, witnessed. "Dale Mercer!" Detective Chen's voice rang clear. "You're under arrest for domestic violence in the 2nd degree, criminal violation of a protection order, and criminal harassment at an educational institution." Dale twisted in the officer's grip, his face contorted with rage. The good suit he'd worn to play proud father was torn at the shoulder, grass-stained at the knees where he'd been pressed to the ground. His carefully constructed mask had finally, completely shattered. "She's lying!" he screamed toward the cameras, toward the crowd, toward anyone who might listen. "Evelyn, tell them what she's really like." But Mom wasn't looking at him anymore. For the first time in 3 years, she was looking at me, really seeing me. Coach Ramirez and 2 other women had formed a protective circle around her, their bodies a shield between her and the man she'd chosen over her daughter's safety. I stepped back to the microphone one last time. The audience, all 500 of them, remained standing. Their silence felt like a held breath, waiting. "This is what justice looks like," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "Not revenge fantasies or dramatic confrontations. It looks like documentation, like witnesses, like a community choosing to see what's been hidden in plain sight." Dale lunged again, nearly breaking free from the officers. "You stupid little, I gave you everything I kept a roof over your head." "The roof," I said clearly, letting his words hang in the air, "keeps leaking." The code word, spoken one final time, not as a cry for help, but as a statement of fact. The roof he'd fixed had never stopped leaking, not really. The damage had just moved inside, dripping poison through our family until everything rotted. I reached into my gown pocket and pulled out my dormitory key, holding it up so Mom could see it from where she stood. Then I placed it on the podium not for her to take, but for her to know it existed. A door she could walk through if she ever found the courage. An escape route that didn't require another man's permission. Detective Chin climbed the stage steps, her expression professional but kind. "Ms. Whitman, we have everything we need for now. The recorded threats, the violation of the protection order, the assault with 500 witnesses, he won't be getting bail." Behind her, more officers had arrived. Not just campus security now, but state police, investigators who'd been building cases in Oregon and Wyoming. Dale Mercer wasn't just my nightmare, he was a pattern, a serial predator who'd moved from state to state, family to family. leaving destruction he'd blamed on difficult daughters and hysterical women. How many others? I asked Chen quietly. At least 4 that we know of. Your courage tonight might help them come forward. The crowd began to move, not dispersing but shifting, forming something new. Parents hugged their children tighter. Students exchanged numbers with campus resources. Faculty members approached Mom with business cards for therapists, lawyers, support groups. Zoe appeared at my elbow with her phone. It's viral, she whispered. #she graduated free. 30,000 views in 10 minutes. On the screen, I watched myself standing at the podium, pulling down my collar to show the bruises. The comments flooded in survivors sharing their stories, offers of legal help, promises of safe houses. The isolation Dale had worked so hard to build crumbled in the face of collective witness. Kayla, Principal Collins said, approaching with my valedictorian medal. You still have a speech to give, the real one. I mean, if you're ready. I looked at the medal, then at the crowd still waiting, still standing, still protecting the space between me and the police car where Dale was being forced into the back seat. His screams had turned to mumbles, then silence. The last sound he made at my graduation was the slam of the police car door. I already gave it, I said. Everything I needed to say. But I took the medal anyway, feeling its weight differently now, not as an achievement, but as evidence that I'd survived, that I'd thrived despite him, that I'd turned my pain into power and my silence into thunder. The police car pulled away, taking Dale Mercer to a cell where doors locked from the outside and privacy didn't exist, where every movement was monitored and documented, where he'd finally experienced the kind of powerlessness he'd inflicted on others. Mom walked toward the stage, each step uncertain, like she was remembering how to move without asking permission. She stopped at the stairs, looking up at me with eyes that held 3 years of apology she didn't know how to voice. I didn't go to her. Forgiveness would take time, therapy, and guarantees she couldn't make yet. But I nodded once acknowledgement that I saw her, that the door represented by my dorm key would stay open, that maybe someday we could build something new from the wreckage Dale left behind. The crowd finally began to disperse, but slowly, reluctantly. People approached the stage to leave business cards, phone numbers, promises of help. A female prosecutor from the district attorney's office, a social worker who specialized in domestic violence recovery, 3 therapists, a woman who ran a nonprofit helping survivors rebuild their financial independence. As I gathered these lifelines, these proof that speaking truth created community rather than shame, Detective Chen returned one last time. There's one more thing, she said. We've frozen his assets pending investigation. The money he took from you, there's a chance we can recover some of it? $46,800. 3 years of early morning shifts at Sugarfinch Bakery. It seemed like such a small number now, compared to what I'd gained tonight: freedom, justice, and 500 people who'd stood up when it mattered. The auditorium lights began to dim. Maintenance crews started stacking chairs, but I stayed on the stage a moment longer, looking at the empty seat where Dale had planned to sit in his good suit, playing the proud father one last time. When I started to say, then stopped. There was nothing more that needed saying. The story didn't need an epilogue or a neat resolution. It needed exactly what it had: a moment when truth met consequence, when silence became speech, when 500 strangers became an army of witnesses. I walked off the stage, medal in one hand, evidence of freedom in the other. When? Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Leave a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your stories matter too, and this community is here to listen.